Are you my next one? Oh,
Yes,
yeah, you are. Okay, I didn't see
I
that.
am. Yeah, we are on Films Gone Wild, and we are talking about 7 short films about our marriage with director Chris Hansen. And uh, I was like going, when am I going to talk about the film by this point? Like it's like I've interviewed you, we've done Q&As, we have personally talked about about
I
the film.
know.
But for the purposes, for anyone in the audience who has not had a chance to see the film as of yet, um, introduce everyone to 7 short films about our marriage.
Okay, 7 short films about our marriage is a feature film uh, told in 7 vignettes about a marriage, an interracial marriage, and a couple that is trying to keep their marriage going in spite of all of the stuff that life throws at you, from trying to make ends meet to infertility to racism, and it's about how they do and how they don't succeed at that.
Okay. Now, because of the format of the film, we're used to and kind of trained to go in a 3-act structure and all this sort of thing, and this gives us a little bit more of an episodic style of a structure. And this is, listen, you're not a new kid on the block, with making films and even teaching people, about making films. Why did you decide to structure it in this way?
I think that I've been really struggling with for a long time how would I tell a story about marriage, because marriage isn't a 3-act structure, and I've been married for more than 27 years, and there are ups and downs, and I had never really thought, like, how am I going to write this story, not of my marriage necessarily, but marriage influenced by my marriage. And a friend on social media had posted something along the lines of he and his wife had reached a milestone anniversary, and he posted something like, well, we made it through a lot of raw real life junk. And that phrase really stuck with me, that's true. That's what marriage is getting through the raw real life junk and surviving it and staying and choosing to stay together in spite of it. And then it occurred to me that raw real life junk is this, and then this, and then this. And it's not a rising action toward a big fight necessarily. Sometimes it does culminate in a big fight, but usually it's a whole bunch of little things that add up and nobody dealt with along the way. And so I started thinking about, well, what are those stressors along the way? And it was like, they deal with racism in the first part, and then there's money problems, and there's infertility. And so I felt like these things don't all happen back to back to back. I can't tell a story over like a few months like you would in a rom-com or a typical romantic drama. They happen over years. And so I felt like the best way was just for us to revisit the couple every few years or so as the new problem raises its head and we see kind of where they are and how they're dealing with it.
Well, and I was thinking about this the other night as well, is that one of the things that structure does allow, and also your approach, in that there isn't a big melodramatic crescendo that that ends Act 2 to lead us into Act 3. There isn't this thing, because as you correctly says, we don't always have those in real life. Those are awesome when we're building a dramatic structure, for a film or a television show, or a novel, whatever. That's super great, because we're kind of trained, like seals, to want that and desire that before we get our fish. But when we're talking about real life, that's not really the case, and that is done very well in this film, in that those moments of being wounded, they're little wounds that just don't heal.
Yeah.
And and I would love for you to talk about that, about how you manage the nuance, both in the writing and direction, but also working with your actors to manage that nuance.
Yeah, I was actually going to say I think the success of it is largely in the performances. It's in people who start, and it was really important to us in that opening uh, short film, the opening segment, that you want these people to succeed, that you're on their side, and that you kind of see yourself in them, or that moment where they're kind of doing their vows through the bathroom window without seeing each other, is supposed to be funny and touching and make you want to cry because they've just got their whole lives ahead of them and they're committed to each other. But then I wanted you to see the little things chip away at that, and to see the sadness, for example, in her eyes when he's not acting the way she knows he can and should, when he's angry or when he blows up at her about something stupid, and it's never like, I didn't want him to be somebody who was violent or, she was scared of, but just more like, this is not what I thought this was going to be. And I know I say that because I saw it in my own relationship, because I was not as mature as I needed to be when I got married. I got married right out of college, and was not really in the world very much to know how things worked. And so my wife and I had different ways of expressing emotion. And in my household, growing up, getting angry, I have an Italian mother, and we we just express our emotions very openly, and then it's over. But not everybody's like that, and I had to kind of come to realize that. And so I think that really we worked on Drez, who plays Noah, really not being the greatest guy at times, but finding the balance between that and being still a sympathetic character that we care about. Wanting him to be a better man, but not losing the audience, not losing kind of hope in him. While at the same time, seeing China's character, China Walker, who plays Madison, just a sadness that kind of begins to grow in her eyes over the course of the different segments, until we get to I think when she's ready to part with him, that it's almost a resignation, not an anger or anything. It's just as she describes to him, it's been a long process of just getting over you, but while we were still together. And
Right.
And so I think, I think it was building those actions into the script, into the story, but really then getting the performances to reflect this slow kind of gradual transition, and not, and I got to say, I think it's in the script, but I think it's the actors really remembering that, because, we're not shooting these in order, and we're not like, but an actor has to, as has to chart this emotional trajectory on the script for themselves, because we're going to shoot these all out of order. We shot parts 4, 5, and 6, and then 1, 2, and 3 all out of order, that like that. So it's just a mess for them. I don't know how they do it so well.
Well, and as often happens when I'm interviewing someone, you've led immediately into my next question, which was, about shooting out of order.
Yeah.
Because especially with a film like this, when you are trying to deal with nuance, and it's not as easy as, this is a bad guy, we're killing him, in 2 days, we're going to be meeting him. It's not so, so defined, so black and white. Here you're talking about shadings. And yes, the professional actors, they're supposed to know, they're supposed to have their shit down. But that doesn't mean, when you're really trying to, peel back an onion so acutely, so finely that's that easy. So talk about the communication between you and them, in those moments, to make sure that they were in that right setting. And if you had to do any kind of corrective measures after like a take or two to go, oh, wait a minute, no, we're still not quite there yet.
Yeah. I think it's always, I remember telling somebody, or I think I posted on Facebook during the shoot, how hard it is. Our first few nights were all overnights, because we're shooting a night scene. Shooting in Texas in the summer doesn't even get dark until 10 o'clock. So we're shooting a bunch of overnights, and you're there at 4 a.m. trying to get a really nuanced emotional scene down, and it just takes all of your focus and energy, and you're just looking at this person, this actor, this person, and saying, is that doing it? Is that right? I think it is. And I've been asked a version of this question before, and I think it's a gut instinct thing after a while to say, yeah, I think that's the right nuance, the slight right emotion that we need to get there. Because I don't do this. I don't do a thing of marking out my script to say, should be sad here, should be, whatever, because I think it's built into the way I write the script, especially if I'm directing something I've written, which is usually the case. It's really built into, and I give the actors stuff to work with in the description, that communicates what's between the words. So I think that's a part of my direction is in the writing. And then it's really, I don't think it's really corrective so much as looking for nuance, looking for, okay, I almost often say, let's tweak that a little bit this direction. You're a little, angrier, let's go a little sadder, or vice versa in some cases. And sometimes it's just, maybe that's not quite right. What do you think would work here? Because I have found that in working with good actors, they, if they're really committed to a project, and these actors certainly were, they bring so much of themselves to try and bring these characters to life. So, it was not uncommon for China to say, I'll give you an example, because I was wrong about something, and China said, I think it should be like this, and she was absolutely right. There's a scene where they've had a big fight, and she's gone off to the dance studio. He's been working on a script. She comes back, and he's sitting on the front steps of their apartment waiting for her. She sits down and they talk. And I had written her as much more forgiving and fine in that moment. And and we were playing it, and she said, I just don't think she's fine. I mean, they had this big argument. And I think the line that eventually she says, when he says, are you okay? Yes. And then he says, are we okay? And she says, we will be. I mean, it's in there. The line was in there, and she read it the right way. She saw, yeah, we're not fine right now. I'm not okay with what just happened, but we will be. So she said, I think she should play it more subdued and not be like everything's fine. And, sometimes you have to trust an actor to see what you don't. Because my view was, okay, they had their big fight. They all got it out of their system. She went and danced, and she's fine now, and they can kind of get along again and joke around a little, which he tries to, and she doesn't kind of warm to as much. So I think I probably went a little far afield of your question, but I really think it's partly for me writing it in and knowing where I'm going with it, and then communicating with the actors as we rehearse a little bit, but also trusting the actors to say, here's where I feel like this character should be or is going. How do you feel about that?
Right. Well, and the final question I have, and this comes from, I'm in the process of working with a short project, and we're re-editing, and it's the idea of actors giving you something, or you asking for a different take, a different direction on a line reading. So then you get in the editing bay and you go, well, I know we have the angry version, but but let me see what it looks like with the earnest version.
Yeah.
And then, because again, especially you're shooting out of order, maybe that arc now makes more sense, or maybe that take makes more sense. And we always just accept that that's a great thing, for an actor to be able to do, to give us choices, as we always call it, choices in the editing room. And I was thinking about you and this film in that case, because again, it is so well nuanced. And I was like going, I wonder if that's something that Chris did.
Yeah, I definitely think so. My philosophy is, you never know what you're going to need in the editing room. So if you think you might want something, then you should do it. on the set because you can't go back there, or at least in the world we live in and make films in, you can't go back there.
With the budgets that we work with.
Right. Yeah. So there's not going to be reshoots. I don't think I've ever had a reshoot on a film because it's just budgetarily impossible. So let's leave it all on the field, as they say. Let's try it. Either if it's something that I either think will work better or the actor thinks will work better, I'm like, okay, we did my way, let's try your way and see. And we've got them both. And often, I mean, both of those things end up getting used at different times. Either it's, sometimes not even in the context of the shot that it's meant to be. I mean, there's plenty of stuff. I mean, editors are magicians that there are several shots in this film that are not from the take or the line that they were meant to be, where you're creating a reaction that wasn't there because you need something. I mean, that we did that. There's some stuff where we literally reversed we ran the shot backwards so that a person who went from frowning, who was smiling and then frowned, now is frowning and then smiles, and you never know that we had manufactured a reaction that way.
Exactly. So, there are countless times where you go, oh man, Dres was so introspective in that shot, and you go, yeah, Dres was thinking about lunch.
Yep, absolutely. There are things like that all the time. So that's why you always keep thank goodness for digital, you keep the camera rolling and you get magic sometimes. So yeah, there's always the attitude. My attitude is always try everything. You don't know what's going to work on the set, and even more importantly in the editing room, that thing might work. So yeah, we do a lot of that.
All right, well listen, again, this was a fun one. I thought about this, going to the interview saying, something, I think I just want to talk about making movies with Chris on this one.
Yeah, it's fun. I miss it.
All right, well again, the film is 7 short films about our marriage. We've been talking with Chris Hansen, and thank you for being on Films Gone Wild.
Thanks, John.